Okay, I rushed the last two videos on this nishiki out because I filled my phone full. That was me one long video. My phone's like, no, dude, you gotta cut that stuff in half and see if you can get it uploaded. And I barely did. And I got a cool video done of my swap meet scores. It's all about that. And even though my phone was out of data, I actually kind of finished the bike that night before editing the first two videos and uploading them. So we'll go over a little bit. What do we do? I put some cables and housing on. Brake pads on. I had a problem with the shifter. This very cool old bone trigger bar with this really great classic styling just doesn't have enough length here, which is pretty common on a lot of energy bars. You can get a grip, barely get a brake lever. You can't really get a trigger shifter. You can probably get a thummy on here, and I thought about that, and I almost went on eBay and ordered a $40 micro shift, 8-speed thummy. I was like, that's no. So instead, I just grabbed another old bar. It's a little scruffy, and I didn't want to do that, but this frame's really scruffy. It's fine. It's a lot longer flat area, so I get a full grip, get the brake lever, I can get the 8-speed trigger shifter, no problem. I'm totally happy with it. Nice long bar. Probably should have saved it for myself, but I looked and I have two other bars that are at least this wide. Like, a lot of these old bars are like 53, 55 centimeters wide. I think this one's like a 58, and I had two that are 60s, so a little better. I'm also daydreaming on the internet. I never ride my handmade rando bike. I'm just too old, my back's bad, my knees are bad. So daydreaming, looking on eBay for an outer, smaller chain ring. Right now I have a 4428. So I'm daydreaming about putting a 40 on the outside, but it means I'll have to cut a front derailleur in half and rebend it and tap and drill it and make a front derailleur shorter cage. Maybe, I might have to do some crazy stuff. I thought I had a micro shift like compact, but it's a micro shift compact triple, not a double, so it's just as big as the double. Because with the derailleur bolts on, the rings are so small, the bottom of the derailleur would be hitting the chainstay. So I couldn't get it low enough, so it'd be a giant gap, which might be fine. Sometimes it is, but it might overshift. And looking into buying these expensive crust ortho bars, Ron's ortho bars, like $120 and 25 shipping. Like, for a handlebar, I pay $5 for used handlebars all the time. So it's like, come on, guys. Because it's 26.0 clamp, I want to keep that, but it's really big. Like, what made me trigger saying all this stuff is, the widest ones I have are 60. The Rons are 69, and they're 175 millimeters of grip area. Is that crazy? I don't know. What are these ones? So that's probably about 170, 175. So a good little amount, because I'll probably move my shifters up on the tall thummy pods. I have down tube indexing 10-speed shifters on that bike. Luckily I'm talking all this nonsense. I was about to talk a whole bunch of other nonsense too, so maybe I should skip my rando plans. We'll get to them. The sun is kind of coming out today. It's not raining so much, so I'm going to do the final whatever this bike needs. Some double checks, some grips, and we're going to go take it on a test ride. See, I slapped some generic bone trigger pedals on here. That bottom bracket's kind of bothering me. It feels a little sticky if it sits for a while. Probably for me getting degreaser in there. But I got it on, it shifts. I got the 8-speed Sunrace 1132 cassette. I really wanted the Shimano 1134 cassette with the Mega Range bailout. People are like, you like that? I'm like, I do like that. I like having tight little steps for all the gears you normally use, and the Mega Range is so smart. And then the very highest gear, or the very lowest gear, the biggest gear, the easiest gear, just jumps from like a 28 to like a 34. It's a huge jump. It's great, because once you get to a hill, you're like, you've already not shifted early enough, and you usually just yank your shifter all the way to the easiest gear anyways. So that makes sense, but I couldn't find one anywhere, and I didn't want to wait to order one. I wanted to finish this bike. Although it's been days, I probably could have ordered one. The tires are so tight in these brakes. It is modern, very modern build, gravel build the kids do now. They put a tire in that's clearly 2 sizes too big for a bike. This bike should really have like a 32 and have room for fenders, but this is the modern style, and I got these new tires so cheap. Bash guard on, I got the chain on. This has the Acera Mega Range derailleur, so it's got a really long cage and giant oversized pulleys to really wrap a lot of chain. So I didn't even break this chain. I put the full chain on. Still seems like it has tons of tension. I probably take some links out, but I thought maybe someday I might put the mega range. So I didn't take any out. I can always do that later if I want. Seems fine. What do I know? So we got a new bar, Jaguar cable and housing. This mixtie usually has a brake with a different style. The brake's like down on the bottom, like a lot of BMXs. So the old housing ran down through some holes in these bridges and came down and around up to the brake. It's a little tricky to do that on a mixtie, to put a modern dual pivot. But I got the cable to come through and did just a nice little gradual loop up. And then right here, right where the bridge is, I did my trick, which I learned from some old mechanics, where I took some electrical tape and did 10 or 11 layers, made like a fat donut of electrical tape. So even though you're pulling, there's tension, this thing's never going to slide forward, it's never going to make this drag and tight and make the back brake feel crappy. And this back brake feels great. It's snappy, it's nice. It's not as nice as the front, but they never are. But it's nice. So I just got to do double checks and test ride this thing. And we'll do that in a minute as soon as I wax nostalgic. Well, I've also got to show off my new BMX bike museum shirt, as promised. It feels weird. I got to cut this neck and sleeves off, make it normal. So I wanted to wax nostalgic. Someone on the last video put a comment about how he thought mixties were cool, and he was always trying to find one his size. They don't come very big, so they're kind of noodly. And it's true. I think Soma made some bigger ones, maybe a 58 or a 60. But you don't see big ones very much. A few frame builders have made bigger ones. Sometimes frame builders should just make a full-size big bike, and they're so big and so noodly, they'll just add an extra set of these mixtie stays. This comment, he got me thinking about mixties I've done in the past, and I could think of two cool examples. And so I'm going to put some pictures up as I ramble on, and hopefully I ramble long enough to get all the pictures posted. I did two mixties 4 or 5 years ago at the shop when I had Norther. They were really cool. The first one I did was Kara's mixtie, so she was a friend of my business partner, and she wanted one of our bikes, but didn't have $1 zillion, so we tried to do it on the low. So I got this old Miata mixtie, I think for like $40 on Craigslist, and it was her size. I've been wanting to do it for a while. And I think what I did is I went through and respaced it to 130. I changed a bunch of brazons for modern cable routing and stuff. So kind of like I did this, space 130, I didn't change any brazons on this. I added candy bosses to it for 650B. And then we had it powder coated like a sparkly gold. I really love that powder coat color. It was super cool. It had the original Miata cranks, which had the outer ring built in. And then the inner ring bolted on. And I think I made it a 1x. I think I just cut the crank in half. Just cut the spider off. So it only had the inner ring. And then I high polished the crank. And it like said Miata on it. It was kind of cool. It was like a suede, just like a lower end one. It was kind of cool. And I got some like new old stock Suzu hubs for like $10 a piece. Those hubs are so impressive. I even did a little video on Instagram of the hubs. Because I span that hub. And it was so impressive. It just would not stop spinning. And so I took a little video of it, and I was posted on Instagram, and while I was posting on Instagram, I looked over, and it was still spinning. God, this one's really going, too. Wow, this is a great hub. I think I overhauled these a long time ago when I got these wheels. So the cool high polish, high flange silver, and we put them on some like Velo orange 650B rims, and, did a little build with probably some Velo orange tourist bars, and some other VO parts and random stuff I had sitting around. So we got the bike built, I think, for like $800. And 150 of that's powder coat and parts and, wheel labor and rims and hubs, like all the expensive stuff. Most of the parts came in pretty cheap. I think we give her a real big discount on the labor and all that stuff. And that bike came out really cool. I found one picture of her all happy standing with it. It took me a while to find that picture. I knew it existed, I couldn't find it. Around that exact same time, I think I'd already started building a custom mixtie, and she was interested in that, but it was going to be like $5,000 for the custom mixtie. This custom mixtie is the only one I ever built. I found some cool mixtie lugs with some hearts in them, and then I think I carved some even bigger hearts in some of the other stays and things that didn't have them. Maybe they just had the hearts up here, so I carved heart here and some stays. I was playing around with it. I'd never built one before. It was lugged, so I kind of used the lugs. I did these tubes. I originally thought about doing it like this, where you flare them out and come down the dropout, and then I kind of realized it'd be more fun to rake them and have them come up out of the way and attach to this stay. And I used our fork raking tool. I think I have a picture of it. Hold it up, I'm holding the fork so you can see the rake of our French flip fork rake matching the rake that I today. I thought that was cool. Did a metallic blue, did a little Portor demi rack, I did a little heart in that too. Super cool. And then no one cared, no one bought it. When we were broke, I put it down for super cheap. And eventually one of our regular customers who had a girlfriend who was pretty tiny, she had like a little Bridgestone mixtie that we did a bunch of work on. A little pink one, which was super cool. I think he ended up buying that for her. I'm hoping it's still out there. I'm hoping he's still riding it. I haven't talked to him in years, since before we closed the shop. He was a cool guy. He had a titanium touring bike, and I recommended he take it to Tie Cycles, which is another frame builder that's been around since the 70s and doing custom bikes. And he did S&S couplers on it, so you could, break the frame in half and put in a travel case and change all the braze-ons and a disc mount on the back. And I built him a custom fork with lower trail for touring, disc fork with like Nova's rakeable disc blades. And I think we built him, we put on a big Surly front rack. And I made some custom hardware and modified some of the Surly hardware to fit better and clear the disc brake and all that stuff. He started having his own handlebars made for a minute. It was like a crazy alt bar. It's like a big, wide kind of rando bar with an extra set of flat bars welded on, sticking out, that we were going to start carrying, and it never did, and it didn't really take off. And he's trying to do a website. I don't know if he still got a bunch of those bars, or if he sold them, or I bet he's still sitting on a ton. Pretty cool. Just go see if I can find them. Post a picture. I don't know if I can. But those mixties were really, really cool, and I hope they're still out there. And I kind of miss all my old bikes, and if I ever have money and I see my old bikes pop up on Craigslist, I usually buy them. I usually resell them to other friends or try and find good homes so I'll get ridden. But I know I keep thinking I need like a Portor bike as a city bike. I keep being like, man, maybe one of our Clickatats will pop up for sale. Cheap, I'll buy it. None of them have. I never see the Clickatats pop up. I keep seeing her here, and the Lions pop up, which is our lightest, fanciest bike. The Clickatats are heavy and no one cared because they're like 8.5 and 9.6 tubes, and just Columbus Chrome Ore. They're 10X tubes or whatever. Fantastic bikes. I think they're the best bikes. But people don't listen to us, they only chase fads. But that was that. So I guess let's pop these grips on and make sure the wheels are in tight and the stem and headset are tight, and let's go take this bad boy for a test ride. We'll write down the serial number and make up a little sales sheet with the basic description of the bike and the serial number, and get this dude up on Craigslist. I also told my friend who owns the shop close by that I might take it on consignment. I might try Craigslist for a week first, because if I can get $350 for this bike, that'd be dope. If I sell it to him on consignment, I'll probably only get like $180. And I really only have 50 or 80 bucks into it, actual cash, probably. For all these used parts, and the new tires for 20. These cranks, I think I paid 10. Everything. I guess I paid 15 for that rear cassette. Things start adding up. The pedals and the derailleur and the cables and housing all got it. Salvage sale prices. I might have paid $5 for the bars. I probably paid $5 for the shifters. Like, it adds up if you're not careful. But and then I might start on the Serrata built Terry for myself when I got those wheels. I'm pretty excited to do that. So what else should we cover? I skip a lot of the important stuff because it seems like people are more bored by it, more into the build plans and the excitement. But let's pop these grips on. So these are these generic silicone grips I've been buying off eBay for like $2 a pair. Like straight shipped from China. They say they're silicone, they seem squishy and nice, they're really inexpensive. They come in a whole bunch of colors. But I have found that if I try to change my mind, they don't really come off. They basically break, or I cut them off, or they tear. So they're definitely not as nice as going and paying $20 for some ESI silicone grips or anything modern. But they're pretty cool. I kind of wanted to do a color on this bike, but nothing was really sticking out. I thought maybe pink for the sticker. I'm out of pink. I got blue and green and yellow and all the hard colors to use. So we'll use the last black. Maybe I'll see if I can go order some more pinks and some more blacks. Rent's due in like 2 days, so I'm trying not to spend any money because I think I have kind of just enough to cover rent. And my storage unit comes out on the 1st now, and my dog insurance comes out on the 1st now. But spring is here. Hopefully I'll start selling some bikes and parts. Hopefully my eBay will start picking up. I'm just using a little bit of rubbing alcohol. I really like rubbing alcohol for grips. Just barely, that's kind of a lot. Just barely squish a little on. It dries super fast. Little on there, just a teeniest bit. In here, a lot of pro shops will just use compressed air. They'll stick the air compressor nozzle under here and blow, and that'll give it a little pocket to slide on. I've never done that even when I had an air compressor. I do it sometimes to get grips off. Squeeze some out the back. Still a little too easy. I want to go on kind of hard and tight so I know it'll actually dry. That's getting pretty hard. A little bit lets it slide on, but if you got too much, it really won't dry. You really need to evaporate and dry so the grips don't slip or move or come off. I think it's probably good. These little end plugs fit really nice into expensive skinny bars. Older bars are a little cheaper, the metal's a little thicker. Sometimes they're a pain. Sometimes you can just mash them in, sometimes you gotta do some tricks. You can even see, woohoo, mash right in. The other trick is to take some, little dikes or side cutters and trim away. Make some little notches in these little plastics so they can bend more. Let stuff get in there. Just a little bit. Just a tiny bit. Ah, bud. Mush it, mush it, mush it. This one's got some old sticky stuff on. I tried to glue the old grip on. Used to be popular BMX grips. Rubber cement them right on. That went on pretty hard. That doesn't seem right. From the end of the bar to the brake lever, I got like 13.5 centimeters. Oh yeah, this is only like 12 centimeters. Got this brake lever in the way. Ugh. Move it out of the way, we'll come readjust it afterwards. This one's pretty tight. Oh, booyah! Get the bike on the ground. I usually like to walk it into a wall, or in this case, I'm gonna walk it straight into my washing machine. Usually stand right over it. This bike's tiny. I can loosen the stem and just turn it a little bit till it looks, you can sort of stand straight over it and it looks totally straight with the front wheel. You do the same thing with the seat. Just barely loosen it, and then you can see it looks straight. You can just tap, 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 tap. That's the best way. I'm gonna make sure this top nut is tight. It doesn't turn the bottom nut and mess my adjustment up. Before I do that, I like to turn the wheel totally sideways, hold the front brake, and try and rock the bike back and forth. See if we can feel any play in that headset. Do it straight forward, you'll feel play in the brake, you'll feel flex in the fork. You can feel the bearings in this, so it's good to check the bearings first. Make sure you're not feeling that play. I don't feel no play, and it's real smooth. It falls under its own weight, no problem. Even a little bit of tension from this cable and housing. Double checking from the bar end to the end of the brake lever, I'm at 15. The bar end, the end of the brake lever, I'm right at 15. And I want to check my angle. I like just a very small gap. I like to just see the grip, see the lever, and have a very small gap in between. People always put their lever straight out. That hurts and strains your wrist. I want a real natural wrist. I don't want to be digging down. I don't want to be digging up. I want to be natural. God, they both look exactly the same. Let's tighten this guy up. Should probably double check the stem bolt. I like the angle. I like the bars to be level with the ground and down like a degree. It's the most comfortable. People do all sorts of crazy stuff. Down just a little bit in the back is the most comfortable for most people most of the time. In all things in bikes, people try and think are hard, fast rules, and nothing's a hard, fast rule. Things are places to start, and then you can go from there. Oh yeah, that's tight. Pretty sure everything else is cool. This thing's ready for a test ride. So all the adjustments and setups and brake lever angles and seat post angles and straight seats and seat height and seat fore and aft and all the rules you hear about bikes all the time are basic rules. They're guidelines. They're not hard and fast. You have to be stuck to them. You got to try your own thing. A lot of women especially don't like their seat to be straight. They're a little crooked. Most people think they want their seat all the way down, so this isn't stabbing them. It's a lie. You want your seat up a little bit in the front, and then you want to put the height down until your body can come back and relax and you can balance back here. And this just sort of acts as a stabilizer, so you're not putting all your weight on the front, smushing all your soft bits on that pointy little nose. So, you know, start doing everything the right way and then make little adjustments to figure out, you know, what you actually like and what works. Same thing with crank length. People are crazy. 165s for track bikes and 175s for mountain bikes. No, you should do your crank length based on your height and how fast you like to spin and how mashy you are. Like I'm slower, so I like longer cranks, so I have more leverage. Just don't spin that much. Some spinners like shorter cranks. It's easier to make the little circles faster, and it makes them faster and not burning the energy. So you gotta figure out your own way. But yeah, let's go test ride this bad boy while it's not thunderstorming out. Broom, broom. Let's do this. So I'm going to test ride it to make sure it still shifts nice. I'm going to test ride it to make sure the chain doesn't fall off from shifting, going over potholes and bumps. Make sure the wheel doesn't move in the frame. I need to figure out some sort of little vintage dropout spacer taker uppers or anything like that. You know, make sure there's no problems. I absolutely did not double check these brake pads. They are definitely not aligned right. I have to grab a tool. Be right back. I factually hate doing brake pads in the stand. The fronts aren't so bad. The rear's rough. The other rear on this side that's up against the walls is the worst. Now, canty brakes swing up and in and down. Caliper brakes spring down, so they kind of come up as the pads wear. So on a caliper, we want to set up the bottom of the pad with the bottom of the rim, so as low as possible, so it doesn't actually get on the bent part of the rim, it stays on the brake surface. But as the pads wear and they start moving up a little bit, they won't ever hit the tire. A lot of rims don't really have a wide braking surface anymore, so they have to come up pretty high. I got like a millimeter, maybe 1.5 millimeters showing on the top before it gets into the ano and that curve. Make sure they're straight. It's really easy when you tighten them to the whole thing to turn. While you're tightening them, sometimes you'll adjust them a couple of times before you cinch them down. Take an adjustable wrench and put it on here to hold it so they don't turn, or to turn them a little bit once they're already tight. I like to make sure that when they hit, they're not pushing the whole wheel around. These ones definitely are. Most of these dual pivot brakes have a little tiny Allen screw on the top, so you can adjust that just a little teeny bit. I don't have that tool, so I'm just going to move the whole thing over by hand. You know, real pro. I'm just adjusting these totally flat. These pads, and a lot of other pads, and sometimes not. Some pads have toe in, some pads don't. I'm not really worried about the toe in. I'm trying to get them pretty flat. If they squeal, then I'll toe them in. So another one of those things is like a fake hard and fast rule. Like you always have to toe your pads a couple degrees in on the front. Front's always got to be towed in. It's not true. That's a good place to start. I like to do them flat instead. Sometimes you'll toe those pads in and it'll make them squeal. Sometimes you do them flat and it'll take the squeal out. Sometimes, I know good mechanics have been doing this 30 years and they don't believe me until I show them. Sometimes a squealing bike, you mess with those pads, you have to do a little bit of reverse toe, and then the squeal will go away. Toe makes your pads wear weird. Most mechanics don't care, it just means you come buy pads sooner. I don't like doing that. I like to make stuff work as best as possible. I probably ought to take a little chain lube and drip it on these brake pivots. They're making a little bit of noise. Basically tune-up stuff on these old parts, which I haven't done yet, but we'll do that when we go back inside. Everything feels snappy and nice. Let's test ride this teeny, tiny little bike. So the very first thing I noticed is I absolutely did not tighten down the shifter. And these tires are making crazy noise, and that's because they're picking up every little sort of wet piece of gravel and throwing them all over the frame. So good times, and right in my shoes. Dope. This thing performed pretty flawlessly. The brakes aren't working as good as I want them to, but I also just remembered I didn't sand the pads first, so I started working a little better as I stopped more and more. I always sand the pads, except for I just didn't on this. I don't remember why. Spaced it, I guess, and we definitely want to put a little teeny bit of lube on these brake pivots. Just drop a little drop here and here. Everywhere there's a pivot to make them shut up a little bit. Sometimes doing the levers too. I was doing tune-ups too. And yeah, no noises, no weirdness other than spitting all that gravel. And I'll probably grease the seat post before I put it down a little lower for a normal person. I have it up pretty high for my test ride. Shifts great. This little 39 tooth, the 32 in the back was good enough for the steep hill right next to me with my bad old knees and my big old heavy belly. So it'd probably be fine for, this bike's probably intended for someone like 5'5", or like 5 to maybe 5'5". So they're going to be light. Yeah, cute, cute, cute. So let's go lube this thing and make a little sales sheet. Alright, we're going to unforget all the things I forgot. Little drop of lube on that bolt head, or on this pivot, on that bolt head, or on that pivot. And instantly whisper quiet. You can do it up here on this pivot. On the springs a little teeny bit. Just let that lube sort of drip in and make things quiet. I do this in every tune-up and every old bike. Should have done it on this, treat it like a tune-up after it was built, because it's a lot of used parts. Chains comes pre-greased. There's a lot of arguments in the bike world about you should clean the pre-grease off and then use whatever fancy grease. I don't. I always use the pre-grease. It's totally fine. It's a little sticky. You can kind of wipe a little bit more of it off. But it is fine. No one cares. People are cray-cray. On tune-up, I always lube all the little pivoty points on the rear derailleur as well. Always do the little plates on the jockey wheels. Get a little bit of lube in and under there. You know, make sure stuff works and works for a long time and it's quiet. Most people don't even know what's going on with their bike. On a tune-up, you can basically just clean it and lube anything that's squeaking and not actually adjust anything or make anything shift better or stop better or do anything. People are like, oh, my bike's perfect. When you bring your bike in, you can replace the brake pads, replace your chain cassette, make it shift perfect, and make the bike actually stop. And they come in, all they see is that you didn't wipe enough dirt off, or you didn't lube the brake and get rid of the squeak they noticed. And they're like, you didn't tune up my bike at all. Because customers aren't mechanics, they can't see stuff. They don't know what they're looking at, they just know what they feel. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. Now, I'm going to make up a sales sheet. When we decided this was a 42, it is so teeny. A 42, effective top tube is a 50. God, this bike's so teeny. And I want to see that serial number. Oh, I got the sales sheet done. Little cutie. I found some kind of light pink and white paper. A construction paper I printed on the ink didn't stick to as well. Put it in a little Ziploc. Reusable bead tied up around the handlebars. This is what I like to do. No one else does it. No one has to. This way I always have a Word doc saved in case someone steals the bike or there's some problem. You know, they can message me and I can be like, oh, I can reprint that for you with the serial number on it. Keeping track of serial numbers is important to do. Customers ought to do it. They don't. We did a little handwritten sales receipt at my first bike shop for every bike and wrote the serial number down. And a couple people have come in and needed that serial number and we made a copy of the whole receipt. Kryptonite bike locks, which is the only brand I recommend. I know Abus are good too. Everything else is garbage as far as I know. And I mean that. People are like, no, this is my favorite. No, that's been cut through with a steak knife. It's garbage. Kryptonite offers a real insurance policy on your bike if you buy their lock. And the different grades of heavy dutiness of locks have different insurance policies. And I've had maybe 3 customers over the years who had their bike stolen. They came in, I got them a copy of their receipt for their bike. I wrote them a handwritten receipt for the Kryptonite lock they bought from me. And you need a police report of it being stolen. You need a photo of the lock cut in half. So if the thieves steal your lock, you're kind of boned. Or the whole actual lock. I think they might want to take a picture of the serial number or something. You need your receipt for the lock and the receipt showing the value of your bike, and they will cut you a check and it'll be in your mailbox in like less than a week. So I had 3 customers had that happen. All 3 of them got a check within a week. We hooked them up with a new bike, a new lock, the whole thing. Kryptonite is the truth. They're hard to cut. Thieves recognize the brands. They don't even try half the time. Abus is a really good brand. They look cartoonish and clowny. They look like a cheap lock with the neon colors. And so thieves will try. They won't cut through the lock, but they will bend and mangle or destroy your top tube. Or if you have it locked, trying to break that thing off with a crowbar or whatever. Kryptonites I've tested a few times. I've got like some 4-foot long bolt cutters and put one side of the ground and put me and 2 of my friends on it and try to cut a Kryptonite lock. We couldn't even dent the cheapest one. They're really good. You would need factual power tools with metal cutoff saws on them to get through. Even a hacksaw won't do it. They skid and slide everywhere. But tweakers sort of know that. They're stealing so many catalytic converters that they go steal tools off the back of construction workers' trucks and stuff. And they steal, the battery-powered saws and cutoff wheels. So it still happens. In Portland, tweakers got really good at unbolting the bike racks and barely putting the bolts on. So you lock up and they come by and just sort of lift the bike rack off the ground and slide your U-lock off. I've also seen this one when they come and they cut the big bike rack right in half and put a piece of tape or a sticker over it so it looks like it's connected. And they come along with your bike and they just sort of boop and then just slide your lock right off through the cut and right off with it. So, life's tricky. Nothing's perfect, but Kryptonites are the truth. They're worth the $40 to $80 for the locks. They're heavy. No one wants them. Everyone wants a crappy cable. I have cut through cables with steak knives to show people. I used to keep an old cable lock at the shop. People get so mad that I wouldn't stock cable locks. So I kept a cable lock at the shop with bolt cutters. And the handheld cable cutters are like $6 on Harbor Freight. And they weren't locked up forever. People tweakers to steal them and just cut right through the cable. Just chop an extra inch off for every customer to show them. Like, you can't have these. You can't have them. Your bike will get stolen. I just saw a cute little kid's bike at the park yesterday, and she locked her U-lock. She had a real U-lock, but locked it through her stem or she didn't run the handlebars. You really could slide off easy. See the stem. I used to see guys do their seat post all the time. I used to walk up to guys with the seat post and tell them it wasn't safe. I remember this one guy's like, it's totally safe. And so I just popped out my multi-tool and undid his seat, just pulled the seat out and walked off with his bike. He's like, hey! I'm like, yeah, you gotta get through a real frame. There's no opening, dude. People, man. This bike's golden. I went outside, took some pictures. I haven't looked at them yet. Hopefully they turned out nice. Put up on Craigslist. I got 3 wheel sets I'm gonna put up on Craigslist. Super cheap and hope someone's ready for them. And hope someone comes and buys this bike too. I got 2 other bikes up on Craigslist for too much money, but I'm willing to haggle. But I don't want someone who's only willing to pay $100 to start haggling me on a bike I want $5 for. So I put it up at $650 or whatever. Putting this bike up at $450. It's got brand new everything. It's great. I'd definitely take 3. So I really only have like 1 into it plus labor, so really 3 into it. But gorgeous. Rode great. I love it. It's cool. It's super cool. Little mixties. They're so cute and fun. And I just like vintage Japanese bikes, man. I love old 70s and 80s Japanese bikes that were made for 27 1.25-inch wheels. I just love that they have room for fat tires. I love they have a classic styling and lugs. I like the way they ride, and I like their geometry. Like, they're like a road bike, but not too racy. They're more stable. They don't really feel any slower. Like, they're nice. They feel quick. Sometimes the frames are a little heavier. Whatever. I just texted my friend Patrick. He does have the Brugnelli frame alignment jig I'm looking for. So I get back into doing some more legit frame respacing, maybe some more frame building. And he's willing to sell it to me. We just got to figure out what he wants and if it's complete, and it's in his friend's storage. And he was just telling me that he's become obsessed with some more modernish Kona, sort of clunkery mountain bikey thing. And he has 4 of them in steel and 2 of them in tie. So he's bought every tie one that's ever popped up. They said that the steel complete builds are 38 pounds, which is insane. Why would you ride a bike that heavy? He's built a couple of his own frames. He's built himself a light bike just like that. And the tie ones come in at like almost 10 pounds less. It can't all be the frame. It's got to be some of the build. But if you have a nice tie bike, you're going to use some cool tie hardware. You're going to use some nicer, lighter parts. But, you know, frame weights make a big difference. I've definitely held old steel bikes that were straight up like 10, 11, maybe 12 pounds with the frame and fork. And then I built some really light bikes that were like 6 pounds frame and fork. We built some that were like 4.5 pounds frame and fork with like ultra thin 7.4 Kaise tubes from Ray Hurst, like that fancy stuff. Like, they were light, shaved pounds off a bike. Like, shocking how much weight you can get off with a really light fork and a hollow light crown instead of a heavy cast crown. Phillip raised instead of lugged. I mean, lugs are light, but you can shave some weight. I mean, like JP Weigel will drill little holes in his brazons before he raises them on. He'll drill holes in his brake pad retainers before he bolts them on. He'll, you know, do an extra $1,000 worth of work to shave maybe half a pound over the whole bike. Like, not a lot. But, you know, heavy derailleur like this can weigh 1.5 pounds. Like a light Dura-Ace one can weigh like barely 3/4 of a pound or something. Like, you can become an insane roadie and wear spandex all the time and be uptight and click around your clicky-clack shoes. And be insane about your grams and only buying the lightest rims and only buying the lightest tubes and only using the lightest tube sealant for your tubeless setups. And you can go nuts. I don't recommend it, but you can do some reasonable stuff and shave 1 pound or 2 and make your bike happier for not a lot of money. Or you can shave 4 pounds and spend an extra like $3,000 on your build. Like, you can go totally crazy. So be careful. Thanks for watching the Nishiki Mixtie build part 3 and all my crazy rants and all my waxing nostalgic about my personal bike and some other mixties I built and the cool BMX Bike Museum shirt. And if you like BMXs and you haven't checked out the BMX Bike Museum yet, he doesn't sponsor me, but he's cool and nice to me, and technically he gave me some free shirts. Maybe that counts as sponsorship. He's got 80,000 vintage BMX bikes up on his site with multiple nice high color pictures, descriptions. The whole thing has got like his own private eBay on there, so people can become members and sell all their vintage BMX parts to other BMX nerds who know what they are, know what they're worth, aren't going to be lowballing you. You're not going to be buying some like $500 vintage pedals from somebody. They're going to be the wrong thing when they show up. Like his own thing, and it's cool. I think he makes a living from that. He gets enough people subscribing to his seller thing that he's pretty cool. He can spend all of his time running his website and not working some boring job he hates that sucks the life out of him to keep him from ever following his passions, like building the biggest BMX website ever. 80,000 bikes! It's crazy! Alright, well, thanks for watching.